Hello and welcome back to Beatdown Bandits podcast, and it is the season finale. I almost said series finale. I'm not quitting. This is not all of it, but this is the season finale episode. So we'll be back in January at some point. I don't know, holidays and stuff, and so just taking a break from the whole podcast aspect. So probably like 3 or 4 weeks off. So come back sometime in the middle of January. Maybe like the second Saturday, pop back on and get something new and exciting. So I'll work on new stuff for the new season and for 2021 for sure. But hey, as the season, I almost said series again. As the season finale episode, season 1, this is like episode 27 or something like that. This will be a lot better than the last episodes. Not that last episodes was bad. It was just very kind of depressing. 2020 in review. And if you haven't watched it, you can feel free to go back and watch that. But yeah, 2020 was kind of a bummer of a year, right? So, or a downer of a year. But hey, we should be happy. I got my elf hat on. For those of you watching on YouTube, at least, you can see my elf hat, and you can see that I definitely need a haircut. But today's episode, we're going to do some for or against, simple topics, just kind of whatever the topic happens to be, and if I'm for or against it. Pretty simple concept. So yeah, let's get into it. I'll just have like little minor discussions of each thing, but it's a very lighthearted compared to last episode. So we'll just go there. So I got my list here. So starting off, number 1, video game movies. So this is not necessarily any type of controversial topic, but let's call a spade a spade. Video game movies are really bad. So I could see a lot of people being like against it, like please just stop trying to make this happen. But I am always going to be for it. I love video games and I love movies, and somehow in some way they always screw it up. And there's going to be somebody who's like, no, the Mortal Kombat movie was great and Street Fighter 2 was great and blah. No. Those were still garbage. In the grand scheme of movies, those, even like the best video game movies, are crap. Okay? Let's call a spade a spade. They're not great. They could have been so much better. And I have so much hope. Like a Super Mario movie. Like, that was arguably one of the worst movies of all time, and they screwed it up. So there was just so much potential with that, right? So I am for video game movies, and somehow, like, I was big into Assassin's Creed, and when the Assassin's Creed movie came out, it's got Michael Fassbender in it. I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome. They tried to make their own little story, and I'm a big Ezio guy, but like, you had Connor and you had Edward and you had all these really awesome assassins that you could have gone off, and you went and did your own thing, which I can respect. I'm like, okay, cool. It's its own little storyline. And then it wasn't great. It was decent. It wasn't great. And, but yeah, somebody who's like a big Assassin's Creed fan, it was a big disappointment. So somebody is going to come along and make a really awesome video game movie, and I can't wait. It's going to happen. Number 2, esports. So again, not super controversial, but I know a lot of people who are like, why are people going to college or getting college scholarships for video games? Because there's so much money, okay? People get college scholarships for swimming, or for baseball, or for football, or for all these other like sports. Why not necessarily video games? Because it's making, just like, video game industry makes more money than swimming brings in, right? So maybe not necessarily like, well, maybe, I don't know. Like, it's billions of dollars that's coming in, so maybe it makes just as much as like like professional sports in like the United States. I don't know, maybe. I'd have to kind of go through and look, but I mean, there's plenty of video games out there who've brought in, like, if you look at like GTA, for example, that's $1 billion video game, GTA 5. Minecraft, think about how much money that has brought in. Super Mario, I already mentioned that. How much money has Mario brought into like Nintendo? Nintendo makes a crap ton of money off video games. So there's all sorts of monies out there to be given away. So I'm all for the esports thing. It's just very important, like to tell kids who want to kind of do that stuff is like, you got to treat it just like sports. It's like, you should do your best. And if you play football, for example, and you want to make it into the NFL, that's great to have that dream, but you need to be realistic, realizing 1% of like high school football players make it into the NFL. So that's very hard to do. And you have to be the elite of the elite to elite. So if you're a video game player and you feel like you're really good and you're like, oh man, I can get paid to do this, it's not an easy task. So just like every other sport, you got to work at it, and it takes a lot of time. So, but again, I'm all for it. I love watching esports. I love watching pro teams and learning what they do. Like there's some competitive video games, mostly like Apex Legends, that I play that I'm really bad at in comparison. But it's really cool to see like the elite players do those things. And I play with a couple dudes that are really good. I kind of feel bad because I kind of bring them down. But it's really fun to watch really good players. I really love doing that. Number 3, phone calls instead of texting. I am not a phone call guy. I'm pretty introverted when it comes to things. So a lot of times when I see phone calls, I'm like, no, I'd rather not answer this. And I kind of dread it, especially if it's something text worthy. So like for work, like I know I have like some people who like send me kind of instant messengers. We have like an instant messenger program, and they'll send me a message basically saying they're going to call me about something that they just sent me an instant message about. It's like, oh my God. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of phone calls. I would much rather receive a giant email or get a big giant text than have a phone call conversation. So I am against phone calls in general. Number 4, fighting in hockey. Yeah. It's awesome. I'm a big hockey fan, and so I am for fighting when it comes to that stuff. I get why some people are not big fans of it, because it kind of takes away the hockey aspect. And it's like, what does this have to do with it? Like, I was watching a hockey game this past season with my wife, and she's like, why are the refs just standing there watching them fight and pummel each other? Like, well, I wouldn't want to get into that mess. I would rather stand back until they fall down to the ground where I can then grab them. But that's pretty much it. I mean, they get penalized for it, but nothing major. Or is it major? Okay, where am I at? Number 5. Okay, this is a little controversial, but for me, not really. Breastfeeding in public. So I had to get a couple topics in there that are a little off the wall, and this is one of them. I don't remember who I was having this conversation with. It was somebody at work that was talking about this, and I don't know why. Oh, we were talking about lactation rooms, and that's why how every business has lactation rooms, which is great. But for some reason, like, people like freak out when people are breastfeeding in public. So therefore, I am for it. It doesn't bother me. I am not weirded out by somebody that has to pull their breast out to feed. Like, that's not a big deal, and it has to be done. So people need to calm down with breastfeeding in public. Just let it happen. Kids got to eat, right? All right, number 6, magicians. Yeah, in general, I am for magicians. I think 70% of like magic is pretty awesome. Most of it is kind of lame and stupid, but if you watch like Penn and Teller, David Blaine is a little out there sometimes, and some of his stuff is just like extreme stunt rather than any type of like actual magic. But he does some weird stuff that's really cool to watch. Like, and Penn and Teller does have like that Foolish show, which is really awesome. Like, the people who are on that, most of those guys are really awesome, and gals. There's been some pretty awesome female magicians as well. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some people are not a big fan. I don't know. I'm all for it. Where am I at? Number 7, clowns. Yeah, clowns can go. I am against clowns. I don't know that many people who are fans of clowns. So yeah, clowns kind of suck. Number 8, homework. I am against homework. As a kid, like, I don't think I got anything really out of homework. I get why some teachers like it because it helps the student continue to practice thinking outside of the classroom. And so I understand that aspect. But there are some kids who just can't get it done, need a little bit of extra hand holding, maybe don't have parents at home all the time, or are involved in a lot of extracurriculars of sports or cheerleading or some type of music thing or whatever. Like there's a lot of people who do extra stuff outside of that or have jobs and don't have 2 hours a day to do homework. I know, like, and even as a parent, like, and then have kids that have to do that, it's not easy. So, like, thank God, like, the last, like, 3 or 4 years, my son has just not had that much homework. My daughter does a little bit, but she's doing homeschooling stuff right now for freaking COVID, but um, hers isn't too bad, obviously, plus it's second grade, so that kind of helps me. So, yeah, moving on. Number 9, pineapple on pizza. Not a big fan. Like there's like this is a very divisive topic, which is really funny. Um, I will eat it, but I would much rather have like 20 different other types of pizza. It doesn't gross me out, but it's not amazing. Number 10, social media. So you can probably go on this for a long time. There's definitely like some documentaries out there, like what's the one? I haven't watched it yet, but I've been told by like 4 people I need to, is a Social Dilemma on Netflix. So yeah, I think with social media, like it's very helpful, but I think you just have to monitor how much you're on there. And I know like at least with like iPhones, they tell you like how much a day you're using it and like what your weekly average is and stuff. So that's kind of nice to be able to get off your phone. Unfortunately, like I'm sitting here reading a list, so that's just counting my minutes here. Number 11, medical marijuana or CBDs, things like that. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. You know, the more the merrier of people who want to do those things. Overall, it's a pretty harmless thing in my eyes. Um, yeah, so you know whatever somebody wants to do, it doesn't bother me. If it is illegal, this is where like I have issues with those type of things. Is if it is illegal or whatever, or say you have it and you have like where kids are involved and you have kids and you're sitting there with like illegal, drugs of some sort, that's where I have a problem with it. But if it's legal in your area or whatever, I don't have a problem. Number 12, conspiracy theories. I am all for conspiracy theories. I love them. I don't think there's really any that I'm like a big believer in. There's some that are fascinating, like the 9/11 conspiracies are usually interesting and entertaining to like watch videos on. The flat Earth theory is another like really interesting one to kind of like just watch videos or read on. I mean, those are like the 2 that stand out to me. But it's fascinating. Like I could watch flat Earth videos like all day long. It's really funny and entertaining. And most people most people that do that stuff are a little out there. But there are some people who do that stuff for like legit scientists and stuff. It's like I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. If you've never dug into those conspiracies, you should. It's fun. Number 13, beaches. So yeah, I do like at least like putting my feet into sand. Like there's something, I don't know, like kind of refreshing, not spiritual. I don't know, like holistic, something. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, of like just like being on sand or being around water or whatever. I just like to put my feet in the sand. I don't necessarily like to go to a public beach and hang out with a bunch of people. Like that just does not sound entertaining to me or fun or something I want to do. I would like a private beach where I could put my feet in the sand or in the water or whatever. That sounds great. But overall, like the concept of beaches with a bunch of people and what, no, I'm kind of against it. I am for putting my feet in the sand. I will say that much. Number 14, time travel. So yes, I am for but man, you could really screw up. So let's say time travel is real. I mean, the first thing that I thought of was like Back to the Future, like where I could, I could go and get a sports almanac from 20 years, 30 years down the road and retire in a couple of years. Like that sounds pretty awesome. But yeah, you could really easily screw some things up. If you go back in time or in the future, like you could have some real big impacts on things. So yeah, overall I'm for it, but whoever's I don't know, like I feel like time travel could be a thing. I don't know, maybe not. No, like more that I think about is like, how are you going to time travel? I don't know. It sounds awesome though, right? Like I wish time travel was a thing, but man, it's people got to be careful. Number 15, setting life goals. So it's just like setting goals in general. Yes. I think you have to set realistic. There's like a fine line of goal setting where you have to set realistic goals, but then goals that are not like super easy. Like my goal for today is to brush my teeth and take a shower. Like, no, like that's a little too much. So, but like, look, my goal today is to like finish this project that I've been kind of procrastinating on for like the last 2 weeks, and to do this. Like that's something like challenges you, but that is something that's obtainable. So yes, I am all for that stuff. The company that I work for, we talk a lot about like quarterly rocks, or we call them rocks for goals or whatever. So quarterly goals or yearly goals, we talk about that. I'm all for that because that stuff is usually like, man, you can like, this is the big thing that I need to focus on this year, or the big thing I need to focus on these next like 3 months. So that I'm really all for. I'm not a big goal setter though. So speaking of which, like, let's just jump into the next one. New Year's resolutions, number 16, New Year's resolutions. I'm not a big fan with that. Like, I feel like that's almost like too much pressure. And like, it wasn't like 97%. There was like a big study done on New Year's resolutions. Like 97% of them like fail in the first 2 weeks. It's like all the people who want to like, oh, I'm going to work out every day or get in shape or whatever. And then like everybody buys gym memberships the first week of January, and then by the second week of January, they've already canceled them. So yeah, I'm guessing gyms have like a really high like growth in January, or very high profits in January, because people aren't coming in to use the equipment, but they're paying for the memberships, right? So I'm kind of against resolutions, that concept, just because it doesn't make sense to me. But goal setting, yeah, do your thing. Number 17, making the bed. No, I if it were just me, I would never make the bed. I almost like only make no, I almost like only would make the bed like every time I were to like wash my sheets or blankets, comforters, whatever. I personally would do that, but the fact that I have a spouse and my spouse is around, it's a little more often. I typically don't. She usually makes the bed. Um, I would never do it. No, it's just something that's not important to me. I don't know. Number 18, group texts. No. Please leave me off of any group texts whatsoever. Please, God. All right. Number 19, backing into parking spaces. Yes, I'm for that, I suppose. I am against people who take 20 minutes backing into a parking space. If you want to back into a parking space, just whip it in there. You get one chance to back in, and if you need to straighten up, pull forward, and then back in again. That's it. If you can't get it on that second attempt to straighten up, then you need to pull out and go to the next spot and pull straight in. So everybody get that? Like pull forward past the spot, back up, and then you can pull forward and straighten up again. That's the max. If you can back up that first time, awesome. But you get that one chance to straighten up. Like, let's call spade a spade. Most of us have to do that sometimes. Like I can whip like my parking garage at work that I pull into all the time. Yeah, I can whip that in super easy. But sometimes spots are like really tight, and you get a little closer to somebody than you want, and it's like, let me, add a couple extra inches on this side. So yeah, you get that one extra chance. So yes, I am for backing into parking spaces if you can do it on that second try. Okay. I've literally watched somebody like for 10 minutes trying to do this once. It was great. Number 20, right? Yeah, number 20, the Pete Rose ban. So I listened to a podcast recently. He's a baseball guy, but he's also a comedian. He does a lot of comedy stuff. And he was talking about Pete Rose and his whole ban on baseball. So if anybody who doesn't know, Pete Rose was one of the greatest players of all time in baseball. And I'm not even a big baseball guy, but he was one of the greatest of all time, the all-time hits leader in baseball. And he then became a manager, was also a very good manager, but he also had a gambling problem. And he used to gamble on baseball, which is a bannable offense. If you're a player or a manager, you cannot gamble on your sport, and he was doing it and ended up getting himself banned. Well, meanwhile, there's people going into the Hall of Fame who are basically like, known cheaters by using, human growth hormone and steroids, things like that. And but there's people in the Hall of Fame with that stuff. So what's worse, I guess, like gambling on baseball. And he said he's never, and plus his teams were really good, so it's not like he was throwing games. But he said he never bet against his own team because it would be fairly, in baseball, it's almost hard to kind of make your team lose as a manager. I mean, you could throw in some really stupid like pinch hitters and not, make a bunch of subs that day or something, I guess you could do. But when it comes down to it, it's, you're not out there helping somebody catch. You're not really calling that many type of plays in baseball. So it's hard to make your team lose. So anyway, I'm kind of going on a rampage there, but yeah, I feel like Pete Rose needs to be in the Hall of Fame. If there's other people who have been known cheaters that are in the Hall of Fame, I feel like he's worth it. But I feel like baseball will let him be in the Hall of Fame posthumously. So once he dies, I feel like that's when they'll let him in. Baseball's way too old school. It's kind of stupid. All right, last but not least, number 21 is Christmas music. Am I for or against Christmas music? I am for it for about a 2 to 3 week span. About now, like a couple weeks leading up to Christmas, and then like a couple days after, and then we can call it, right? There's a lot of people who start like November 1 or Black Friday, like the day after Thanksgiving. They go and they do like a month or 2 months of Christmas music. That's way too much for me. I'm okay for a couple weeks. I don't mind the majority of it. So yeah, I would say a couple weeks of Christmas music I am for. I am against the people who listen to it starting in November. So yeah, there we go. Okay, that is it for or against. That is it for the Beatdown Bandits podcast for 2020. So that's the season. I said season right. That is the season wrap on the Beatdown Bandits podcast. Thank you very much for watching and listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube, whatever. I appreciate everybody who's subbed and commented and watched. There's a handful of you, and I'm very appreciative of that. It's nice to know that the content is actually entertaining to some people. It's really just entertaining for me, and it's something for me to kind of do. It keeps me busy. So again, thank you very much. I hope everybody has happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever it is that you celebrate. And we will see you back in 2021. That being said, I'm still putting out content on this YouTube channel pretty much every day. I don't miss many days. Occasionally, like it'll be a random Saturday or a Sunday that won't have a video, but there's a lot of stuff and a lot of content that I have coming out. So pretty much every day, you can see new content over here on this YouTube channel. So again, thanks for watching, guys. I will talk to you through this podcast in 2021. Later.